Oh, hello, and welcome to Al Dente Rigamortis. I'm Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey, the E stands for evil.
And I'm the gamer in yellow.
And we're here to discuss those internet stories, most creepy and most pasta, and be critically silly doing it. And for Ichor Fall 2018, we're doing Ichor Fall stories. Specifically, the Hirsch camera, 1870, brackets, and...
Did it have a year on it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. And Indistinguishable. So two fairly short entries in the Ichor Falls Visitor's Guide, and also on Ichor Falls website, or the community, or A Quiet Community website. You can check them out. I think both of them are available on the website as well.
Yes, that's how we read them.
Right. Sorry.
So far, there's only been one that hasn't been on the website.
Yes. So we're going to do the Hirsch camera first, and then we'll do Indistinguishable second. So Hirsch camera is basically just it talks about a this camera and a process for like developing photos by one Robert Hirsch.
And specifically talking about like a real world actual camera, which has been tied into the Ichor Falls universe.
Yeah. And how it's on display seasonally at the Tiny Rand Historical Society Museum near the town center. As I read the first paragraph, basically. But basically, yeah, it goes into how he developed this process that is different from normal processes, like camera processes at the time, and in fact beat the first color photographer by 2 years. Mm-hmm. But it's also kind of in a state of contention with in certain circles regarding if he did, because his his early processes were crude and practically like unfocused into
they weren't very
actually
clear
doing color.
pictures.
Yeah, because the early plates were, to quote, washed out, partially inverted coloring, as though from a semi-exposed negative. He also goes into like how he uses a different chemical solution. Rather than silver iodide, he uses silver chalcide to help reduce like the use of mercury for developing the negatives and stuff like that. And while it what is it? Well, it does like produce like colored photos. There's also creates weird imagery using his process that aren't reproducible using modern techniques on the plates. Specifically, there's he does like 103 photographs over the course of when he used it.
But he developed like 12.
Developed 12 of them, and 91 of them were developed in 97, but using modern imaging processing. But they are not usually on display to the public. Mm-hmm. And the 12 images themselves are like just candid imagery of like people and places in Ichor Falls, but they are wrong. For instance, there's one where the building is being christened in the photograph, but the building itself does not exist, or in several shops were on the wrong side of the street, or in the wrong street entirely. There's one where there's a quarry and a bunch of people basically walking off it seems.
No, they're walking into a river. Blindly into a river.
Ravine, sorry, yes. We're not a quarry.
It's at a quarry, but there's a river.
Yeah,
there's like a ravine going through it, and they're walking blindly into it.
Yeah. And in fact, one of them looks like they're falling. Yeah. So like they're like, oh well, this is clearly just overexposed. It's like, no, why does that guy look like he's fallen? And there's one where there's like people moving around like a busy street, but they're on all fours and running on all fours.
Yeah, like crawling around and shit.
Yeah. There's one with a man whose face is obscured, seemingly by a sign or something like weirdly placed. But then when you look at it at a different angle, at like an acute angle, it's actually, you realize that it's actually an oblonged, like face,
is his head just stretched out?
Yeah, stretched out, and it's just like shivering, like motion. it's like, it's not actually blurred because of the focus or anything like that. It's blurred because his head's moving in a shivering way. And then there's one of a girl, of a blonde-haired girl looking away from the camera, but it's actually on display away from a wall because at a certain angles you can see her mouth. It almost creates an illusion, like an optical illusion of her mouthing
Out.
out. Is that what it is? Yeah.
Yep.
Also, you think of the wrong picture of a girl. There's one where it's a random picture of a girl looking away, and then this one, because it's talking about a mouth, I'm assuming it's a picture of the front.
It could be from like she's looking away from the camera, so she could be like looking off to the side. That's kind of what I like, because he brings up like the image of a
Those are in
young
complete...
fair-haired girl who is not looking at the camera, and then later on...
Yeah, then later on, though, it could be an entirely different picture.
It could be, but I don't know. I just assumed it was the same photo, just and it's not it's not like you looking like background. It's like looking off to the side, so not looking directly at the camera.
And it also doesn't list all 12 that are on display.
That's true, yeah. So. It just gives an example of a bunch of them. And yeah, there's an optical illusion with this one, regardless of if it is or not, that same one, of her, saying out.
Well, essentially, like, the entire thing doesn't move.
Yeah, but
when you walk around, the mouth, like, it moves.
Yeah, like a weird, like, it's like a 3D illusion thing, like you see, like...
the holographic cards.
Holographics, that's what holographic cards. Even though there's no, like, it's just a flat, like, image. There's no actual, like, technique or anything in it. And, yeah, these are all, like, on display at the Rand Museum. And 2 years after he started doing this process, Robert Hirsch left Ichor Falls and moved west. And, yeah, that's basically the story, or the information we were given, the editorial
Pretty much, yeah.
of it. So
it almost feels like it's a newspaper entry kind of
newspaper article, or like I almost thought it was like biographical, like talking about like again, like editorial style narrative rather than a traditional narrative. So grammar inquisitions, because everyone expects it at this point. Hirsch's Chalcide technique also captured a quality that is not reproducible by modern film photography. So, reproducible is spelled wrong. It's REPRODUCEABLE. Should be REPRODUCIBLE.
Apple.
Yes.
cool.
I'm not sure. Maybe that is the American. Now, here's the thing: the reproducible that's in the story could be the Americanized word for it, because like how color is different. The word color is different for us.
Yeah, we might spell it different.
So it might just be like our Commonwealth version of the...
Sorry, they might spell it different, because we spell it the right way.
Okay, fine. You can go with that.
Yeah.
Sorry for all our American listeners. You guys spell it. It's good.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes, yeah. Sometimes it doesn't make sense the way we spell things. Sometimes it does.
It really does, yeah.
Like color, the sound of it has no U in it.
Calour.
But we say clower.
Calour. Yeah.
I love the clower. Yeah.
Calour. Yeah. But then again, like if we were to say it, if we were to spell it like most people say it, like color, it would be
C-U-L-E-R.
Yeah. Because otherwise it's color.
It would be C-U-L-L, I guess, probably.
Maybe.
Anyways.
Yeah. And that's my grammar inquisitions.
Wow. Thanks for your contribution.
Hey, I'm here to help. Mikey, East Ends Review.
I have one that's a typo.
That's usually what these are.
That is actually hilarious when you actually realize that it's a typo.
You didn't originally realize it was a typo?
No, you didn't realize it either? You didn't realize it?
I might have. I remember there being something weird.
Alright, well, this I had to actually look up, so chances are you guys didn't look it up. Anyway, so when it's talking about what he uses in his solution.
Yeah.
So rather than silver iodide, Hirsch used silver calcids to create one of the first panchromatic solutions.
So chalcide is not supposed to be that?
There's an extra H. A calcid is a type of reptile.
So does chalcite actually exist as a chemical?
Yeah.
Okay.
Calcite.
Yeah.
But he's using specifically silver-scaled reptiles to create his...
Yeah. Yep.
Wait, hang on.
CHALCIDES is
Silver reptiles.
a reptile.
Oh!
Would have been... No.
What kind of lizard?
It's
Like, it's not a salamander or a newt or anything like that, right?
no.
Okay.
But it's still a reptile.
The only reason I ask is because, it's actually not tied to the story specifically, but there was an Ichor Falls actual play by the Drunk and the Ugly, where they went like salamander and newt hunting in the river, in the creek. So I thought it might
Did
have
they
been
fall through the water because there's actually a canyon as well?
No, actually, but they do actually. I was actually going to recommend in my actual thoughts or final thoughts about Drunk and the Ugly because the one guy there on their show, Sam, really loves Ichor Falls. Actually, he's been on the show like when we first started doing Ichor Falls stories, like first year, and he actually likes them. He liked them so much that he wanted to incorporate the setting into a RPG game, and ran a few Little Fears games with it. And uses the Hirsch camera as one of the characters uses it as a school project in the game. And like he's just trying to figure it out. Like, why is it? Oh yeah, the other photo that I didn't mention was the trees that have that end in hands.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. You're trying to figure out like why do all the trees end in hands? What's going on with this? Like, how's this developed process? Mm-hmm. But yeah, sorry.
It's because the camera takes a picture of the true universe, which is it's the manscape instead of the dogscape. It's just made of people.
No manscape. 'Cause then you get manscaping. I don't want to go near that rabbit hole.
I guess, yeah.
Anyway, that's interesting. I didn't realize that was. I'm not sure. Now, I wonder if that is actually purposeful.
Yeah.
or if it's actually like a typo because Kris Straub likes to throw in weird, random shit in his stories.
Yeah.
The way that this is written, though, it would be like that was kind of like most people use this solution, but oddly enough, he used this, which are reptiles.
Silver-scaled reptiles.
Yeah. Like
or silver iodized reptile, like basically like an alchemical brew.
Yeah.
He does say actually, like early on, Hirsch does say that like the area around Ichor Falls is an alchemical landscape.
That's true.
Or alchemical wonderland.
So you could have found that like these magical silver reptiles, their scales are like they have magical properties.
Mm-hmm. It all ties into the supernatural that is Ichor Falls.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. I was like last night. I was like when I was rereading the story just to kind of get like refresh myself for it. I was wondering. I kept like what it's like. I should probably take a look to see if a silver calcite or silver iodide is actually a process for this. Or I was like, I'm sure Mikey will get it.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
That's usually my thought process.
Yeah.
Like that. What is
Mikey's
that?
got
Mikey's got it.
The E doesn't just stand for evil; it also stands for effort. Oh.
Wow. Yeah.
All right. So it may or may not be a grammar Nazi.
Yeah.
Depending.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
That's pretty neat.
Mm-hmm. It is. Is that your only note?
Yeah, it's one of the grammar Nazi.
Wow.
Or
I guess there weren't any front ends or front butts.
Nope, there weren't.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was like halfway through like my rereading. I was like actively looking because it's like, oh no, it's actually like written without any ands or buts.
Mm-hmm. That's what I'm surprised neither of you got.
Mm-hmm. Or cared.
Yeah, I have none. So the quote is: "In another, a man walks to the right with what looks like." Bleh. In another, a man walks to the right on what looks like 4th Avenue. His head is completely obscured by a irregular hanging sign, or ellipses, blah, 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 blah.
Oh.
So it's an.
Yeah,
Instead of
an irregular, yeah.
I always get, like, caught up on those because...
By a irregular? Yeah,
irregular.
An irregular.
And a regular sign.
Well,
yeah.
No,
Right?
it's correct.
Wasn't it?
Yes, it is, because irregular is describing the sign, so it's a sign, it's a irregular sign.
By a,
But you use
by
"and"
a regular
because
sign.
"a"
No.
with a vowel is
You
fine.
don't use a with sign. Irregular
but
is
you-
describing sign.
Yeah, but you use "a" with a vowel starting word that follows it. It's an irregular sign.
No. It's a irregular sign. It's correct.
If you,
That's how grammar works. Because
I'm
irregular.
gonna get on the phone with my. I'm gonna get on my phone with my the grade 9 English teacher and find out.
It's proper Queen's English.
Really?
Yes.
listeners at home, if you'd like to comment about whether or not it should be a or an for irregular sign, please let me know. We
You're
don't know.
a regular person, Mikey.
But you wouldn't put a in front of person.
Why not?
Or,
No, you would.
well,
You're a
yeah.
person.
Yeah,
I'm-
You're a regular person.
but I'm
See-
Starfield.
Yeah. So.
You're a regular Starfield.
See, doesn't that seem weird?
It does. That's why the guy was like, by that logic, by the logic he's producing, it kind of makes sense, but at the same time, it sounds weird when you actually say it.
Yeah, that's my problem. When I read these as if I am saying it. That's part of the reason I read slow, because I read in the moment. So I'm reading all this like dialogue at the speed. So when I read it, I'm reading it as I'm saying it. It's irregular and it seems weird.
Yeah.
I like how this is the horse the hill we die on. This is the contention we're having is versus an for a regular sign.
It's an important topic.
Oh, clearly.
I think everyone
Yes.
should talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Start a poll on Twitter.
Yeah.
See who agrees.
Do it, man.
No, I don't care.
Fair enough. All right. So was that your only one?
Yeah.
Okay. So actual thoughts. Most scholars argue that Hirsch's work does not represent the first concerted effort at color photography, and many of his trial attempts from 1870 show either a lack of interest or perhaps understanding in accurately reproducing color images. These early developed plates show washed out or partially inverted colors as though from a semi-exposed negative. Or is it something supernatural fiddling with the plates? Because a lot of like Ichor Falls stuff has kind of this washed out feel. Like when you look at images that Kris Straub and them have done photography and stuff like that for the Ichor Falls itself, it's a very fog choked town kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
So at that point, it might not even be supernatural. It's just that they're just washed out because it's foggy. But
Yeah, but that doesn't explain them crawling around or hands for limbs.
yeah, exactly. I'm just saying maybe some of the weird exposures and the invertedness and stuff is actually just a supernatural element creeping into the plates or creeping into the process.
I assume the invertedness is just poor.
Or just shitty photography.
No, seriously, because this is a new technology, some of them that he developed didn't get developed right.
Yeah, that's true.
So they're fucked up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, my mind went with he's still working on figuring out how to use reptile blood.
Yep.
And
Silver
blood
iodide.
scales.
Silver.
Yeah,
Silver. Well, melted down, or basically he basically just melts down the lizard into a boiling broth like thing.
Just like an entire lizard, drop it in.
It's like chicken broth. So he just gets the scales and the bones and the blood and so that, and just boils it down into a nice solution, and then he adds silver. Or silver iodide, or not, maybe not silver iodide.
Oh, so the lizard isn't silver. He adds silver.
He adds in the chemical or something like that. Or actually, maybe this silver calcite the way we have it, the lizard, and it's just it basically makes it into
It's a silver color.
He's not using a toxic mineral based chemical like silver iodide. He's just using a biological chemical process of silver scaled lizards.
Yes,
but he hasn't refined it yet, so it doesn't have the properties to be able to see another dimension.
Yes.
but it does.
Partially, yeah.
Which is why the invertedness, because the inverted is he's
As we all
almost there.
know from previous creepypastas, inverted is spooky and supernatural.
It is.
And that's not just from, Abandoned by Disney. I think we've had another story that does that.
Xbox Live?
Yes, that was it. Yeah, Xbox Live does
Yeah.
that.
That's the first time I saw the cultist
But
all pink.
it was a weird time.
Yeah.
It was a pink phase. But, no, yeah. So, actually, yeah, I meant to keep asking. So did we figure out what reptiles do fall under calcides, or is it just
Are you asking if
just
we've
like-
Googled that in
It's
the
a,
past?
it's a specific breed of reptile.
He wants to know.
Yeah, I'm just curious what animal, which like species like falls under that one. Oh,
Exactly.
they're skinks.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's offensive.
which are actually I think skinks are native to North America, like specifically West Virginia. Actually, no, completely wrong. They're completely off on that.
Like Japan or something?
Greece, southern Italy, Malta, and parts of Northern America, Northern Africa, Pakistan, India, Sri Lanka.
Yeah, they're over here.
Yeah, they're totally here. Yeah, totally. Just wow.
How the hell does he get those?
I mean,
Because
like,
they were there.
they. Oh no, I mean, like he could.
Super awesome alchemy location.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
That's how it's
Also, a lot of those settlers were probably English, so and the East India Trading Company was an English thing, so they probably just imported them.
They imported skinks
Yeah,
because they need more skinks around right now. Sounds really bad.
it does. It's a natural name for it. So.
Oh, I know.
All right, that's interesting. Cool. And actually, I think skinks do have silver, have weird like shiny silver scales sometimes. At least
Probably the silver ones. Probably the silver ones.
well, yeah.
If there are any.
Yes. Okay, sorry.
Okay. Alright, so that answered your question.
Yes.
Glad I could help.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mikey. You're the backbone of this operation.
The heart and soul.
Yeah.
All right. So Hirsch himself took 103 photographs, but only personally developed 12. In brackets. The other 91 were developed in 1997, not using Hirsch's technique, but modern image processing. These are not usually on display to the public because they're just normal, or are they even more bizarre than the other ones and like would blow your mind with sandblasting power?
Well, it's because they didn't have the technology to actually clear
like,
pictures.
So like they're not technically like they are his photographs, but they are not. They don't use his process. So therefore,
But they're still his, so I don't see why they wouldn't be, unless there's a reason.
Unless there's some kind of weird reason like why they aren't displayed because they would like shock people even more.
You have to roll sand every time.
if
There's
you-
dice in front of each one.
well, when you think about the ones that he developed,
Yeah.
it's
pretty weird.
like they're lifelike gifts.
Yeah, that's kind of like lifelike gifts are like almost like early it's like he discovered holographic illusion photography early,
Yeah,
super early.
Now take that, and in 1997, try to look at these things that have multiple layers and images.
Using a computer program to like enhance that even more.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
Yeah, that they're gonna fail. Like they're just like, oh, this is kind of something, but it doesn't live up to his works type thing. So they keep them.
Yeah, so that's what I was saying. It could either be like normal, just like they're not really worth showing because they aren't as unique as the other ones, but they could also be that they are weird.
I think it has to be on the weird side of things, because if they were just they didn't come out well, they would show them to say, like, whatever he did in the past, they came out like this, but we cannot replicate it in the future, and here's examples.
Yeah, I don't know why, but whenever time I read that, they are not usually on display to the public. It's like almost
Also,
like,
that says usually.
Yeah. Usually, it's almost like I almost kind of like read that with like a sense of foreboding.
Yeah, but okay,
I don't know if that's just like
I agree with you, and I thought the same thing, but now that I'm thinking about it, it says usually not on display. So that means they have occasionally been on display.
Yeah.
So unless that means like
because
at the start,
they cause riots,
or something, yeah.
Or it's just one of those things where when they put them on display like once a month or something like that, and then once a year they put them all on display and be like, see them all, and it draws more people.
Maybe. So it's really just a brand, like a tourism gimmick
stuff.
for that museum. No.
Yeah,
Eh.
I can see that.
I like to think that
Way to sap
because
the coolness out of this entire thing.
that's what he does.
he is evil.
Yeah, but yeah, I do agree with you, Occultist. I felt like because of using the more advanced techniques, all the other ones have been developed fully to the point that there's some weird there's some supernatural thing about it. Like maybe like in the picture you could like literally reach in and grab shit. Like it's
Or they're like actually just
bending
full,
shit.
like without even like moving, they just animated.
Yeah.
Like they are properly animated GIFs, not ones where you have to like move around and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There's just like people like there's people just like banging on the canvas like let us out.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like it's got to be something fucked up.
I thought that was actually like I remember like reading. I must have read another story where that was kind of the case, where like an image of photography, like there's people in the in the image that was like that were like animated and wanted out. Because I thought that was the Hirsch camera, but like
No, you're thinking of the next story that we're going to talk about.
Oh, okay. Wait. Oh yeah, you're for yeah.
You pulled a me.
No, not Indistinguishable. I remember another like story I read where like it was somebody taking photos, but when you looked at the photos, the people that were in the photos were the more you looked at it, the more the people inside the photo became more aware of themselves. I think it's an SCP. Yeah, it was a video. It was a VHS tape where of a news conference or like a presidential conference, and the more you watch the video,
The more degraded over time because VHS is...
No,
eventually it just gets wrapped up.
It wasn't a news conference. Or it wasn't a news conference. It was a basketball game. But the more you watch the movie, or the more you watch this video set, the more the people in the basketball tournament, like in the arena, in the arena and whatnot, became more aware that they were in a video and they were trying to send help, like ask for help from the
like they weren't even playing the basketball
they'd
game.
stop and they'd like look over at like the screen. It's like let us out, kind of like silently. Sorry, completely like moved away from this, but yeah, when I read this, I was like, "Wait, is that one of those images?" No, it wasn't. Okay,
and that side note actually reminded me of Goosebumps, Say Cheese and Die.
Oh yeah, I never read that one. I vaguely remember the episode.
I'm sure I read them, but that was when I was a kid. So.
Yeah,
or in your terms, kid, because I am a Starfield.
yes.
So like a million years ago.
Yeah.
How old are you? In our human years.
Eons.
Really?
Timeless.
Well,
Evil has no age. It is timeless.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
he says that as he's in like a wheelchair.
Kids today.
Yeah.
Anyway, our stupidness aside.
No, continue the stupidness.
No.
It's over here.
And really, my actual thought for the last thing is just about the girl in the photograph, and how like it's basically like a 3D imagery like an early discovery of 3D imagery techniques, which I just mentioned, or someone is trapped in a painting, like the soul of them is trapped in a painting.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually my notes, my actual thoughts on like the story as a whole. So, Mikey, these things for you.
We've already touched on a few. And this actually explains sort of how most of the pictures were with the double or triple exposure.
Yeah.
Like, he was basically photoshopping before photoshopping was a thing.
Yeah, he was supernatural photoshopping.
Yeah.
It's actually not like malicious or anything like that. He was just like, he found like a cursed object that came back in time and supernachronism, and like allowed him to just manipulate his photos.
No, he's talking about super mundane. Like
Yeah.
he takes a picture of a river, and then takes a picture of a cliffside and like overlays them together, and creates it purposefully.
You sap the magic out of everything.
Yeah, and then
It's like he's evil.
I know.
and then the trees with hands. He just took pictures of the trees, and then he had people essentially in green suits with just their hands.
Just overlap them together.
Master.
Yeah. Yeah, like 20 people like on a ladder.
He cut out a bunch of he took a bunch of pictures of people's hands over like a white or black background, and then just cut them out and like popped them, like individually placed them like meticulously on each end of the thing, and then took a photo of that to make the proper image.
Yeah.
Super
Wow.
mundane.
So yeah, there's nothing supernatural about it. We should just move on.
Yeah, exactly.
You broke him. Excellent.
Stealing the magic of everything.
Yes. And then going back to the previous thing about the chemical stuff, is like some chemical studies have been performed on the plates, but Hirsch's original ratios have been lost to time because they can't find any lizards in the area.
Yeah, they can't find that lizard. What they're missing is that he imported them.
Well, no, it's talking about the measurement specifically.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
So saying like he essentially never wrote down his
Exactly
measurements,
how
or,
many lizards and
Must be used. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
or was it written down at some time and then it was lost?
Yeah. We'll never know.
No.
Yeah. I do like the idea. Like, it does leave off with like it just kind of abruptly like he left he left in 1872 after like 2 years after he started doing this process, and went west. It was like kind of abrupt. Like, was there maybe a reason? Like, it kind of leaves you off to like left me kind of to wonder. It's like, did he leave for a reason? Like, was there something like did he make some awful discovery about his photos or something like that? And he just like
Yeah, he looked at them.
It's like, nope, I'm out. Ichor Falls is weird. Fuck this.
Essentially. Yeah.
He kind of almost kind of reminds me of Kris Straub's actual biography in the about the author in the book, where it's it literally I think it specifically says, just pulling it up now. The closest he is, Kris Straub was born and raised in South California. The closest he has been to Ichor Falls is Charlotte, North Carolina, which is about 150 miles south. It was close enough. Mm-hmm. It's just like, yeah, no, I'm not going near this place anymore. I'm done.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that
Or he moved, in regards to him moving west, after seeing how much he's pranked the entire town with his photoshopped images, it's like, wow, this is actually really handy. I'm going to move out west,
to Hollywood,
get some funding, and create Photoshop.
and then
the world can do it.
Then we found out he's actually the founder of Adobe.
Yep.
Yep.
Ichor Falls provides.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Everything has a mundane reason.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Alright, so that's pretty much my thoughts talked about.
Okay. I don't know what I have written down, to be honest.
Words.
Hopefully. A little bit.
A couple of numbers.
Well. Yeah, I got one thing written down, but I can comment on some other things. Essentially just this one section when I read it. I thought it said something else when I first read it. There's a translucity, a confusion of line and image in the Hirsch plates that implies depth, or in some cases motion, even though these flat plates possess no lentacular properties. I really thought it said lentacular, like what I just said. So I'm like, wow, that's lentacular, dude. Like talking about the lens of a camera or something.
I thought you were going to say, I misread that as tentacular.
Oh, of course, you go that way.
Hey, yeah, I'm the cultist.
Yeah. But yeah, it's how do you even say that?
Lenticular?
Lenticular, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it said lentacular. I wish it said lentacular.
I think I actually had that issue too, but then I was like, oh, it's not what I think it
What
is.
does lentacular mean?
Doesn't mean anything. Lentacular?
Sorry, lenticular.
Oh.
Sorry.
I don't know. I never looked it up.
I think I looked it up, but then I didn't
I was like,
do anything about it.
Cool. That's not interesting enough to make a note of.
Yeah.
I hope no one brings it up.
Yep. Exactly.
Lenticular.
All right.
Lentastic.
Yeah.
Lenticular. It's honestly just the process of doing those holographic illusions. Lenticular printing is a technology in which lenticular lenses are used to produce printed images with an illusion of depth or the ability to change or move as the image is viewed from different angles. So those holographic images.
Those are lentacular.
That's lenticular.
Lentastic.
Yes. Reaganomics.
Yeah, totally.
All right.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the only thing really I wrote down.
Cool.
Everything else I've kind of already touched on.
That's fair. All right. Then we'll move on to final thoughts for this one. Then we'll move on to the next
Yep.
one.
So you want to talk about how this could be put into more of a story situation?
I was actually going to bring that up in my
Final
final thoughts. Actually, yeah, I was going to have that as part of my final thoughts for it.
Okay, then just edit that out.
Okay, cool. So, basically, yeah, we leave off with like the fact that the camera and the 12 plates are still on display at the Rand Museum, which actually is a point of contention. Which again, like, not connect to the story in a direct sense, but like again, the Drunk and the Ugly guys did a Little Fears campaign, like mini campaign, like 2 or 3 episodes, I think. Set in Ichor Falls, and they used actually the museum like as a place, as a setting for like a prompt for like some of the weirdness as the kids went on like a school trip to it, and like they used, and actually I think the Lemon Blossom Girl was there too, and Maddie was actually an NPC character from Curious Little Things. Like she was actually a ghost, was like a ghost neighbor to one of the other kids. But well, yeah, so they. Yeah, I feel like this, like just like Drunk and the Ugly did with their campaign, and I've actually, the Roleplay Public Radio podcast has also done a couple of of actual play games based on Ichor Falls subjects, mainly Candle Cove, and even Kris Straub himself has apparently done some actual play games using an indie horror RPG, I think called Geiger Counter, or Tremulous. And yeah, based on like basically using the Ichor Falls setting, so like it really does lend itself like as a whole for that setting, and a lot of the stuff like the Hirsch camera entry are good fodder for like either other stories to be told or even like scenarios. Like the Hirsch camera could be used as a focal point for a scenario in a game, where the characters are investigating them, or like. You could use it as a way of like, well, like for like use it as a plot point for a story for a new story where like somebody like takes the Hirsch camera, like a descendant maybe of Hirsch, or like just a photo enthusiast who's like into like the old time processes and stuff like that. Maybe they rediscover the process he does, and what new photo horrors do we get? Like what new like psychological creepy imagery do we get, and like does it affect him like on a more personal, and then we can get like does it affect him on a more personal level by observing these processes, and like do the images get worse with the new technology added onto the old process, like, or again those 91 photos, like what if they are like a lot more twisted and maybe they're fully animated or fully like mutated or something like that because as a result of using a more modern process that can fully bring out the plates imagery, because like
one of them is like a picture of a campfire, and it's fully
it's
animated, and it's actually radiating heat around
and there's actually like
around the picture,
exactly, and there's no sound at all, but you're just like, but you kind of like start hearing sound in your head about what's going on, like because again, like a lot of, especially nowadays, like a lot of people are all about remastering like old photo slides and some of that. Like a couple of years ago, my parents were like going through a crap ton of shoeboxes full of slides that my cousins and my uncles and like grandparents had, and just going to like the local Walmart to their photo center, and just because the photo center just opened up this like whole like you can pop in your slides and like basically rejuvenate old photos and stuff like that, and like recorrect them and stuff. So like that, like what happens when that process is mixed with the Hirsch plates, or the Hirsch camera stuff. So yeah. Or like have like maybe a photo shop or something like that, not the software, like an actual store or like service, opens up in Ichor Falls at like Alethea or one of the newer modern wards. What?
No, you just have Kodak make a resurgence.
Yeah. Or maybe that's why Kodak went out of business. When they had a group go to Ichor Falls in the 90s or like the early aughts, and just like, nope, we're done. No more cameras. We're done. Close up shop. They
all develop like a actual fear of cameras and of pictures.
It's actually like when they keep failing their sand checks, they just develop photophobia or whatever. I think photophobia is probably a fear of light, not a fear of cameras.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Anyway, well, you know what I mean, though. I like there is some potential here for like story fodder and even scenario fodder for like the RPG side of things. But yeah, honestly, that is my final thoughts. Aside from
Well, another way in regards to the story idea,
Yep.
You could use the Hirsch camera not as the focal point, but as the way that the players actually can progress through the story. Where like there's some other thing that's going on, and they don't know how to deal with it, but through the images they take of it with the Hirsch camera, they have it's almost like some weird scanner thing that like sees into the other world.
I was actually going to say, it's like, what if there's like a series of like mysterious goings on, like vandalisms or even a murder, like, but they can't find the killer, they can't figure out like what's going on. But when then like somebody like takes the Hirsch camera, or like somehow you construct the circumstance where they have the Hirsch camera and they take a photo of the crime scene. Or like the
there's clues that you don't normally see.
Clues like otherwise, or you just see the monster. Like it actually takes a photo. It takes photos of the something invisible, like not that can't be seen with the human eye, like the camera obscura. Mm-hmm. Yes, Mikey, you kind of like look excited.
It's used by the SMTF.
God damn it!
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I can see that in the Ichor Falls universe. I could still see this SMTF existing too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Robert Hirsch, he was one of the original members.
He's actually the director of research and development.
Yeah, indeed.
That's
why we moved out west.
The process
He moved out west of the main headquarters.
The process was lost to time. It's actually just been covered up.
Mm-hmm. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Say no more, say no more.
Yes, yes.
God, 1930 or not 1930s, 18 like turn of the centuries SMTF. Yeah. Like, oh god, like, I kind of want to run that game now. Damn you!
Yes.
Oh god.
You're welcome.
Look to the future, audience. If you're fans of our Patreons, we might have some more actual play episodes.
An entire series of the SMTF.
I could totally run that in Cthulhu, or even one of the other like investigative systems.
Couldn't you technically run anything in anything?
No, there are certain systems that are better for other things, but yeah, like fodder wise, yeah, like everything seems to be game. Like anything can be gameable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If you get like the right figure out the right way to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, like I do like that's why I keep we keep proposing on the show like this could be good fodder for a game or because like there's a lot of fodder in like creepypastas and in like creepy stories for like horror games.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to run that game now. 1910 or like turn of the century, like Hellboy kind of thing, basically because the SMTF. But anyway,
let's go through all the creepypastas we've already talked about and find all the ones that take place in that time era, and add those monsters in.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So did you recommend it?
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yeah, it's fairly brief, and in a non-conventional narrative, like it's an editorial narrative more than like has a narrator or has a character that we're following. It's more or less just a biographical piece, but it gives a lot to be wondered on and speculated, and I think that's why I enjoy it. Mm-hmm. And in fact, it's why I probably enjoy these kind of like things. It's not so much about about a story being told. The story's being told, but it's not being told by like a character. It's just being given really interesting information in a colorful way. And again, it gives us ideas for like other stories that we could write or scenarios we could run in RPGs. So. Yeah, I recommend it, honestly. Like, if you're interested in like a weird artifact from this setting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Personally, I only personally recommend it.
Okay.
Because while the pictures themselves are kind of creepy and holographic in origin, I put myself in the shoes of actually going to that museum. Mm-hmm. I was like, yeah, this is kind of interesting. And then walking out and be like, yep, I paid money for that.
But you're also desensitized for all these things. Because you are eons years
old. I will say, like, when I first read this book, like, years ago, when I first, like, got into, like, creepypastas and scary stories, and, like, I think Ichor Falls was one of the early ones I started reading. Mm-hmm. I remember being like really creeped out by the imagery, especially the like the hands on the trees and stuff like that. But reading it now, like it's interesting. I know it's creepy, but I'm not entirely creeped out by it. But I mean, like a newcomer to this kind of thing would find some of this stuff creepy, because I did, at least.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, like it's interesting more than creepy at this point. But that's only because we are kind of desensitized from a lot of creepiness, or we take ourselves out of it a lot easier than just reading it. Yeah.
Well, also you've read it like a couple of times by now, so first reading compared to multiple readings, it'll get less and less creepy, just like everything, right?
Yeah. Or your like
you
your thought process change. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like it's like watching a horror movie multiple times. Like you're not going to get jump scared the same way you would the first time.
Yeah, because you'd be like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, there he is.
Yeah, exactly. It's, oh, there's Jason.
Yep.
Or is that Jason's behind the door? I was like, oh, she's getting. I know she's. It's like actually a big part of the magic of amnesia can be taken away. The game Amnesia can be taken away, because basically you just have to like if you're freaked out by that game, like by like the whole tension and stuff like that, the tension can be dropped by just running in, getting killed a couple of times, and then it's like, all right, I already know what the consequences are, so I'm not as terrified. But that's also a way to ruin the game.
Yeah, it totally ruins it.
But yeah.
Yeah, it's no fun to be sitting there with someone like telling you play by play of what's about to happen.
Yeah.
Like Joe, the theater douche.
Yeah.
He's done that before.
Fuck that guy.
Yeah.
Well, it's in his name that he's a douche.
Yeah.
He's aware of it.
He, and the thing is, like, he's aware of it and he embraces it.
Yeah, I kind of wish.
Which, I mean, good on you for embracing your faults. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think he takes a little too much pride in his faults sometimes.
A little, yeah, a lot.
Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, it's still interesting, even if it's not that creepy. Like to certain people, it still is an interesting story.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So, Gamer Neil?
I hate it.
That's just the worst. No.
So dark.
Yeah, I'm part of the DC universe. I like it, and I like it more now that it's SNTF.
Of course you do.
Because it's a relic. Yeah, okay, well, yeah, seriously though, I like it because all the other stories I've read for Becker Falls, they've been more of a normal story format.
Yeah.
And this is a nice deviation from that. Although, I kind of wish it was laid out saying, like there's an intro saying there's an old newspaper clipping found after he moved away about like the life of him and kind of like he's a
The Life and Times of Robert Hirsch.
Yeah, but it's like a kind of like a send off because he's presumed dead at that point because after he was gone. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
it would be more interesting in that format because that's how it feels like it's written.
Mm-hmm.
But either way, I enjoyed it, so I'll recommend it.
All right, cool.
Because that's really my only fault with it, but that's not enough to ruin it for me.
Yeah. All right. Now we'll move on to Indistinguishable. Indistinguishable is one of those ones that just tosses you into media res, like right in the middle of a conversation between presumably a researcher and his assistant. No, a researcher and a colleague of some sort, as they are talking about the processes of giving life to unlife, or to something that shouldn't be living, by using like weird animation techniques, similar to like film photography or like
talking about claymation,
stop motion kind of claymation kind of stuff. Yeah. But actually achieving like a process going so beyond the normal processes that he's created a new art form or a new science to it. And as the story goes on, like they're talking, and there's also like a talk about like how he's like figured out like kind of almost like a philosophy of like when does your like moving your hand, when does like is there a point in that motion that is there's something in between the two like the movements or something like that, or like there's almost like the missing frames in a reality. For movement and stuff like that, and he's figured that out, and like he's created this process that allows him to like replicate that beyond like film or anything like that, but into like reality. And then he decides to just show his comrade or his companion there the fruits of his labor, and just like claps his hands, and then the shambling clay-like this clay-like thing comes out of the darkness, and it appears to be moving. As if it is being stop motion by invisible hands, and it's a really cool, creepy revelation at the end. And that's basically where it stops. So just like we get the discussion about like the philosophy of his work, and then he gives us the proof of it, and the revelation is dropped, and then it ends.
Yep.
We don't know who these guys are. We don't know what happens before or after. It's just really kind of again to kind of to use the term coined by Slime Beast. It's keyhole fiction, where it's just like it takes you into a moment or a scene of a greater narrative. And
I didn't know he coined that.
Yeah, he's the one that, as far as I'm aware, he's the one that's come up with that idea, that term for it.
Yeah,
where you just you there is no beginning or end. There's just the middle, basically, like an intro that you enter. Or it's again like a keyhole, like looking through.
Yeah. You only see a small bit of
the
larger scene.
Yeah. And I gotta tell you guys, I had some weird backlash feelings about this story because I read it way back when I first read it, and I enjoyed it. I recall enjoying most of these stories when I first read it because I was young, naive, and not as critical as I used to as I am now.
Or as silly.
Yeah. I mean, I was still probably pretty silly. I was just not conscious of it. But then I reread it earlier this week for the episode, and I was like, "The fuck is this?" Like, I was like, "What?" I usually like this kind of thing. Why don't I like this? And I jotted a bunch of notes down about it. And then I reread it last night just like kind of get my refresher. I was like, the fuck was I thinking? I like this story. It makes sense now. It makes complete sense.
All right,
so I'm going to have some notes that are going to be... If you guys want me to bring up my notes that from when I read it...
Please regurgitate your old notes.
Regurgitate my own notes. Yeah. And then I'll also go into some of the stuff that's off the cuff, basically because I already printed this, my note sheets.
Yeah.
So... I don't have I don't use this fancy digital talk like you guys do.
Yeah.
Although, should we start with Grammar Inquisitions?
I do have 2 Grammar Inquisitions, although they aren't... Actually, I'm sorry, I only have 1, and it's actually not a bad thing. So, starting off with Grammar Inquisition.
Because everyone expects it.
Yeah.
And
thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
When your arm moves, is the motion continuous, or are there discretized points, however small, at which there is no in-between? Discretized, verb, represent or approximate a quantity or series using a discrete quantity or quantities. I learned a word, or at least part of a word, because it's a verb of discrete, basically, or like discreting and some of that. Yeah, so I was just interested. I was like, is that actually a word? I was like, oh, it is a verb. Okay.
Cool.
Discretize. Or discretized? Discretized.
That sounds like being discreet with teasing someone.
Yeah. But yeah, that is my Grammar Inquisition. Mikey, do you sense you will?
Alright, my Grammar Inquisition is something that I read multiple times, and every time I read it, it was something that sort of struck me as there needs to be a comma or period or some sort of rewrite going on. Yes, you have chosen the perfect word, he says, opening the black leather bag I have been eyeing since we entered the room. Perhaps he has noticed. Anyway, so it's the opening the black leather bag, and then I feel there's like a that I had or had been eyeing, or somewhere in there. Just
what are you saying? You haven't said a thing yet. What's wrong?
I'm saying he says opening the black leather bag I have been eyeing. So that I read it multiple times and I didn't like it.
Okay. So
you haven't said what the problem is.
He did say it earlier. So it's like when he opens the black bag, I have been eyeing.
Yeah.
You don't like there should you feel like there should be something between him opening the black bag and
stating that he had been eyeing.
Eyeing it.
So you're saying earlier on in this, it should be like describing him walking in with a black leather bag. Be like, that's weird. And then comment on how he sets it down,
So-
like, even though it's down to the ground and he's talking to him, he's still staring at it. Like,
Yeah.
reference it
He
more than
says-
just now.
Yeah, like he
Is that
says.
a problem? Then what's your problem?
Hang on. So he says, comma, opening the black leather bag I have noticed, or I have been eyeing since we entered the room. Period.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really see the problem with it.
From the sound
Hang
of
on,
it, it's
he
because
says-
the eyeing of the black leather bag is only brought up now as he's opening it.
I guess.
Even though he's apparently been doing it the whole time.
Opening the black bag that I have been eyeing since we entered the room.
Yeah, that, to me...
Or maybe like he says, opening the black bag, period. I had noticed it earlier when we entered the room.
Yeah.
And perhaps he had noticed that perhaps he had noticed that I had been doing so.
Yeah.
Something like that. I mean, that's a way to fix it, but honestly, I don't think it needs to be fixed. But yeah,
Yeah, that's...
Again, he is older and more wise than we are, so
well,
maybe he knows
he's older.
Yeah, well,
Sorry, Mikey.
he's obviously fine with it.
Started crying. Tears started to stars.
Yeah, it's not coming through on recording. Sounds like he's fine with it, but he is in absolute tears right now.
pain.
There's like
Yeah.
shooting stars that are just flying
Just
down his face.
destroying whole star systems.
Yeah, there's holes in your floor now. You hear that? Oh, God.
Anyway.
Yeah, so that was my one issue.
Cool.
Had to meet your quota.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't really have an issue?
Yeah.
Oh, you do? Well, good for you.
Thanks. I'm trying to help as much. Thanks. This is my South Park reference. Thank you.
Yeah, like even mine, like it was more like a positive thing. Like there wasn't really anything grammatically issue with the stories. Even
It's
both
just
of these
like-
stories really didn't have that much issue. So
The only grammar-related things is just like I'm reading through it and they're like, okay, I was, as per usual, I read this really late.
I wonder.
I'm like, if this person's like, okay, he's saying big word, then this big word. It might as well be that speak when it's like 3 a.m. I'm like, I gotta get this read.
All right, so we'll go into actual thoughts then. And actually, to tie into that, because these are some of my notes that I took earlier this week.
Yes.
I think I might have either been busy at the time, like I was like doing something else, and then like reading these just to get them to get done.
Yeah.
Or it might have been like later at night. I can't recall which one it was. But anyway, so here's a quote. The latter case, I would imagine, at some subatomic level, I offered. Indeed, he replies. Who are you? I ask. I can usually, it's just like, yeah. So like my comment is like I can usually get behind these keyhole fiction stories, like because it's more of a writing process, like more of a writing experiment and stuff like that. And it's more about the revelation at the end where he's actually created something from his philosophy and process. Again, bear in mind, I like that. Like now that I've reread that and understand like what was going on, I actually enjoy that. But at the time when I read this again, I was left a bit jarred from like the drop into this conversation. Did
I miss some pages
yeah,
back
exactly,
here?
exactly. Yeah, it was just like
Has a page been ripped out?
Who are you? Like who's this researcher? Who's this other researcher? And like, and honestly, actually, at the end, like when he like, well, I'll get to it in a second. But so that was my first like part of it, like my notes, like being confused a little bit by the story. And just like, wake up! Grab some blow, wake up! Who are you?
Give us some stuff at the table. We reference that too much.
We do.
But it's silly.
Some would say we also reference South Park a little too much, but
No.
anyway,
One says that.
the next quote I have is. I have refined the processes, and refined them again until the medium it was freed of its old moorings, yes, and new art form emerged, and a new science. At a sufficient level, the two are indistinguishable. Many things seem to be, I say. He smiles at this. So...
By the way, I like when you're reading this, you're giving them like smart guy accents, but for all we know, they're like Southern hillbillies.
Yeah, well,
You know? It could be anything.
I don't want. I really. I almost well, they are West Virginia, but
Wow.
yeah, no, that's not that. I do not mean that in earnest. That was a joke. I'm sorry. We joke. We like to have fun here on the show. Okay.
Also, no, that was not in earnest because you would have been saying "Did I do that?" before and after it, probably.
I will stab you.
No, that was Urkel.
Yeah, Urkel.
Fuck!
Ernest is.
What's Ernest P. World?
What's wrong with you,
I'm
man?
tired. I'm not myself. I'm
Jesus.
Snickers.
Anyway.
Yeah, that's Urkel. Yeah, that's...
Wow.
My mind is not working today.
Yeah, Ernest would have been.
Ew. Yeah.
God. Anyway, moving on to my actual note.
All these
on
big
this.
words have my head confused. What does this word mean? What does that word mean?
So
Urkel, Ernest, is like the same thing. It doesn't matter.
So here's my note on this whole thing about them talking about yes, indistinguishable. That is the word. Blah blah. It seems to mean many things, or many things seem to be indistinguishable. And my comment, 2 days ago, was it also seems to apply to this story's giving information or giving details. I feel my co-host may dislike this fact, because it's just what am I trying to say?
Long story short, it sounds like what you're saying. The first time you read this, you felt that there was no details. You didn't know anything that was going on, and nothing was displayed.
Everything's indistinguishable. It's who are you? No. Okay, so the part of when they're having their conversations, it was a little when I read it, it was a little hard to follow regarding the who was saying what, or who was who at that point because again there's no names.
They might as well have been the same character because they're both saying the same kind of thing.
It could have been the guy was just talking to himself in a mirror.
Yeah, it could be for all we know. Because they're both on the same intellect level. It's not one's a layman and the other guy's trying to explain it to him. It's what the hell does that mean? Well, why don't I just show you? Yeah, but then again, my comment to it, or my counter to my own thought process in that, and I say it in here, is that this isn't really about intended to be a full story. It's supposed to be an inkling into a greater narrative or an experiment in writing of getting that revelation dropped at the end where the guy has created life. Because you kind of see it coming along all the ways. Yes, Mikey. You seem blown away by something.
The revelation that he's just talking to himself in front of a mirror, and then one side of him is actually moving the clay creature, and the other side of him is just seeing it moving. It's what's happening?
Oh, so is it the tiny movements and stuff of that, the weird almost like the prints and stuff of that, are just him, but he's not seeing that part of him do that. Oh, that's kind of cool. Actually, I like that. That perspective bending thing.
There's a black background on it, and wearing black gloves, so he's just actually manipulating it. Be
that's dumb.
Yeah, that's why I said it.
Okay, fair.
There has to be a mundane reason for everything.
No, it doesn't.
I know.
In fact, I would counter that the mundane reason is him just not being able to know that his mind mentally unable to see himself doing the things he's seeing happen.
Yeah. He's moving the monster, but his other personality is just seeing the monster move.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah.
But that's not mundane either.
It's mundane in that it's a mental disorder.
Wow.
Which is a real thing.
I guess.
That's mundane.
His split personality can't see that his first personality is doing it, kind of deal.
Yeah. The right arm can't know what the left hand is doing.
Yeah, it does.
The other way around. No, but that's a term. Yeah. But anyway.
Cool.
The other thing I have to say about this quote now that I brought it up. Art, science, together. Because he's made a new art form, and a new science, in fact.
Could have been through magical means, though, for all we know.
Could have been. In fact, it probably was, because it is Ichor Falls. And again, this actually does... We accidentally chose both of these together in that they are both processes. Both stories have a strange, abnormal process.
Yeah, that's true.
Of animation.
Yeah.
And then I scribbled out this whole comment because I was like, this is stupid, what I was thinking. But I'll bring it up just because, so this is what I originally got to it. So, but enough talk. He returns as his smile is replaced with a stern air of professionalism. There is some hint of pride in his face, though, as he says, perhaps, to begin, I should introduce you to one of my assistants. He claps his hands 3 times. From a shadowy corner, a misshapen clay thing the size of a man shambles jerkily across the room towards us, its skin rippling as if plied by countless unseen fingers. So I read that like 2 days ago when I first read this for the show, in prep for the show. And I was like, so was the doctor talking to the clay fighter in the corner? Or an assistant?
Clay fighter?
I'm actually a little confused
I miss
the
clay
math-
fighter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like the creature when it came out, I was like, oh god, it's a clay fighter. Or because it's a clay thing the size of a man being plied into motion by invisible hands, and it's like, so it's a claymation creature made real, which is really cool and creepy like to visualize in your head. But I was
Just unsure why you're saying clay fighter repeatedly.
Well, because that's like it doesn't. The clay fighter was just a reference. Because I knew you like clay fighter.
Yeah, but they could be like
It's
this
a video
tall for
game.
all I know.
Yeah, but it's not. It's not a man.
There's no reference material to a normal person, though. It could be
It
all
was
done.
just a simple reference. It's a clay golem creature that's being like claymated together.
Yes.
Yeah. But when I first read that, like in prep for the story, I was like confused as to who he was referring to. Like, was he talk? I thought actually at first he was talking to his
the clay monster.
creature in the shadows. Like that's who was replying back to him about the philosophy of animation, and then he was bringing him out to go talk to some to meet some assistants of his. But then I reread like last night. I was like, oh no, there's the assistant or like the guy that is talking to him initially is somebody that's just like a comrade or some like non-named person
The
that he
assistant
knows.
is the clay
And then his assistant is the creature in the corner.
Yes.
And I was like, yeah. So like I don't know why, but it just like I was confused the hell. It might have been because I was late or I was busy while I was like preoccupied while reading
You pulled a me when you were reading
Yeah.
it. That's the problem.
Yeah. Hence why I removed it. But you guys wanted me to bring it back up.
I was
Yep.
just curious your thought
Yeah.
process before because you said it was so different.
Yeah, and so yeah, now I thought the story was a lot more convoluted than I for being so short than it actually was. Because like rereading it, it's like no, this is actually pretty clear and like it is kind of initially jarring because you're just thrown into this conversation, but it is got a pretty simple rundown. Like they're talking philosophy about animation, like this process the guy's done, and then he shows the example of his theory, and that's really the key of the story is that just dropping that. That revelation that he has done something as like with the process, like he's actually achieved a physical result, and like tremble in fear because he's now created life from unlife.
I mean, if he's friendly, you don't have to trouble in fear at all.
Hopefully, but I mean, a lot of horror stories they generally aren't, and this is Ichor Falls, so it's probably really tragic and sad, like Frankenstein or Reanimator. Where like the dead bodies don't want to be alive because then they're actually in pain constantly.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's my actual thoughts. My convoluted, half screwed up and contrary actual thoughts. So Mikey, these sounds for you.
Alright. So, I read the story multiple times, just like review cultist here. And I found it changed. I read it the first time, got an impression, and then the second time I read it, I got a different impression because I already had the information from the first time reading it.
Yeah.
So you had the exact same experience that the cultist had.
Sort of.
Yeah, like mine was rather contrary.
Well,
Like mine conflicted a little bit. It's like, no, what was this thing?
but my issue that I had was that the creature made sense the first time I read it. Then the second time I read it, it didn't make sense.
Okay.
Why?
How so?
So the first time I read it, it was like, oh, look at the monstrosity, here it is. Like, oh,
Yeah.
that's whatever. But then the second time I read it, I realized that the monster's movement was odd.
That's the idea.
That is the
But-
idea. That's the whole creepiness of it.
Based on what he says, which is that it's art and science and indistinguishable.
Yeah.
So take into account the best claymation you've seen.
Yeah.
It mimics life. It's not jerky or janky or anything like that. So the monster should have fluid movement.
That's true. It might be an incomplete process, though, what he's done. Like, he knows that he can do it. This is like this is an early example.
But the key word is indistinguishable.
Yeah.
Okay, but here's the thing. He says that he has done an indistinguishable thing between art and science or whatever together.
Life and non-life.
Yes.
Like, yeah.
And then he says, let me introduce you to one of my associates. So maybe his associate is his first attempt at it. And with his associate, who is sentient now...
It's also assistant, not associate.
Whatever.
Sorry.
His assistant. Well, either way, it still works.
Yeah.
His assistant, which is the golem that's walking out, that could be his first creation.
Yeah, his crew.
Which is a sentient being which helped him perfect the process to the next one, which got better and better and better. So
we went from early claymation, claymation techniques to, and like eventually he'll get to Ray Harryhausen levels.
Well, I'm saying
master of claymation.
I'm saying he's already there. It's just he brought his first one with him to show his friend that he has made a big one, and with its help, he has made better and better ones.
Yes.
Because again, this is just keyhole. It's just through this one section. So, for all we know,
there is a bigger narrative.
They could all get in his truck and just go drive over there and see the other ones.
Exactly. Or they could break loose and start running around. And
no, they're all friendly.
They're so perfect. Oh god, they're killing me.
No, they're friendly.
All right, that's an interpretation.
Yeah, it is. Because you see, the SNTF gets...
For the odds at home, I just backhanded, just like like silently.
Yeah. Essentially, they hired him on, and
I rolled my eyes so hard that my head rolled back.
Yes, his head went with his eyes. Essentially, they hired him on so he can make the security force.
Yeah.
So they're technically not expendable because they are sentient creatures, but if
they're
shit
not
happened...
expendable?
No.
They have life to live?
They do. But yeah, they could just be created.
Yeah.
Instead of sacrificing the lives of normal people or stuff like that there.
Yeah, I suppose.
There you go.
I mean, that's again, another way, that's one way to look at it. I'd probably write it to be more of a Night of the Living Clay dummies. Night of the Living Clay.
Yeah.
Actually, I kind of want to see that story now. Just like Night of the Living Dead, but Claymen.
Or the way I see it, though, going with the hostile and evil creature is the easy way out.
Oh, for sure. Well,
it's more interesting to create a scary and creepy scene with something that isn't actually that is sympathetic or something that isn't vicious towards other people.
Like make man the real villain.
Not necessarily. Just like the fact that this thing lives and exists.
Yeah,
it's like Antrim a little bit.
It's an abomination
before the whole child stealing aspect of it, because it was creepy before then. Even.
Really, it was. Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the earliest example of claymation that I can think of, and Gumby comes to mind.
Gumby, Pingu.
Yeah, I was going to say Pingu.
Yeah, Pingu. So those weren't very.
They were still.
They're still a little bit, but it's not.
Yeah.
Not as much as I got from this creature.
Well, I mean, things also huge, and they're little. They're obviously, the other thing I just realized was
it's not huge. It's the same size as a person.
Yeah, that's still big.
Comparatively to claymation, it's huge.
Also, it's being moved by fingers, not hands. So, that's the other thing. A bunch, hundreds of invisible fingers. I was like. So when you're doing claymation, that makes more sense. It's easier to move and stuff like that, more articulation. But you need a lot of fingers to manipulate a man-sized creature.
Mm-hmm. Hence why they're invisible. Because it's actually right behind it.
Hence why you see these weird imprints on it.
Yeah.
So
for all we know, it's just a stack of clay, and there's an invisible tentacular creature behind it, just with huge tentacles all over. Just
I'm actually now reminded of an anime called Elfenlied or Elfenlied that we watched actually something about it.
Have we
recently? Death Battle with Elfenlied and how the characters. This psychic who rips things apart and destroys and stuff, but it's only she's not actually psychic or she's psychic. but she's psychic in a way that she creates like countless arms and hands come out, like invisible arms and hands come out of her head and rip things apart or slice them in half, and they can change their size and number. So it's I almost like reminded of that, like just like those kind of hands are like basically mage hand, basically mage hands or unseen servants, just like manipulating the claymated creature.
Yeah, she fought Carnage, right?
Yeah,
killed him, I believe.
I think so.
Yes.
But anyway,
spoilers to Death Battle.
From like 2 or 3 weeks prior, to maybe a month prior to this getting posted. But yeah.
All right, so that was really the only issue I had, is that I feel the monsters should have more fluid movement.
All right.
Okay.
I mean, sorry, not to counter you again.
That's what we do here.
But it could be like the reason why it was like made janky and stuff like that is because that kind of movement is generally off-putting.
Yeah.
Narratively.
Yeah.
So yeah, like you visualize that as just like the off-puttingness of like claymation, like when there's a few frames off or something like that. It's kind of creepy.
Yeah.
And to see that in real life motion, like that's also kind of unnerving sometimes.
Yeah.
If it was normal fluid, I mean, it could also be that it's too perfect, where it's flowing too like much
jerky.
more. Yeah, no, I know, but I mean, again, to add on to your thing about it should have been more fluid. You can make it too perfect and too fluid, like more than a normal human, and like almost like it's just like almost sped up a little bit.
It wouldn't have the same effect though, because it would literally just feel like you had clay there and animated it, like gave it a soul, and it just became alive.
But you're not seeing the puppeter. Basically, is what I think that's also kind of what I find creepy about it is the fact that it's invisible fingers and stuff like that. It's like, what's puppeting that thing? Like the invisible force behind its animation is what's creeping me out more than the physical clay body.
Yeah, for sure.
Again,
for all we know, the clay body itself could be manipulating itself. It could be a sentience within the body, and it has the invisible hand situation.
But that's what's creeping me out.
Yeah,
like, and again, like it's that whole thing about horror is like don't show the full monster, like fear of the unknown, and like less is more. Like by not showing us but just giving us that impression, impressions of the invisible force that's manipulating it. I find that more creepy than the actual creature that we're shown.
Yeah,
or its movements and the speculation of what is moving it is creepier than the physical appearance.
So you wouldn't want it to continue to them going back to the lab and finding out how he found out this. Actually,
I'd be fine with that. Like I think my final thoughts is I wouldn't mind a fuller story of like finding out. Like I wouldn't mind the beginning and the end of this.
Yeah, as
long as they don't fully explain what's going on. Like he's come up with this process. But he doesn't fully know what his power. Like he knows that how to get it going. But he doesn't know what it is.
Okay.
Because you can do that. You can explain. You can explain enough to make it interesting and creepy. So like when you over-explain is when you lose the magic.
So you'd be okay with he found that there's this sigil on some rock that he found, and then when he puts a claymation dummy on it and hits it with a jolt of electricity, it animates it. But that's all he knows.
Or, to tie it into Ichor Falls, the clay is actually from the riverbed. And once all he has to do is start animate, like using his own fingers to start animating it, then it starts doing it on its own. Like, that would be a creepy thing to me. Like,
it would have to be a specific riverbed that most people wouldn't go to, because I feel like that
the main
might
riverbed. Because it's not until you make it into the clay into a shape of a person is when it starts animating itself.
I feel like over the years someone must have done that,
and maybe that's the case, and then maybe that's another story. Maybe that's something in the Stillwood or in the surrounding wild wilderness. There's just a random little creepy clay doll dude that some kid did. Mm-hmm. Or how I don't know if they do that far down south, but up here, when you're by rivers or by lakes, shores, and stuff like that, you see Inukshuks, basically, or mini Inukshuks, like the little rock guardians, or little rock statues that people make. Like, what if somebody did that and slathered it with clay to keep it mortared and stuff, and then it starts moving around, and that would be kind of creepy too, because now you got a rock golem rolling around. So basically, you could have the story where he's accidentally discovered the key to a more supernatural or naturalistic golem environment, biome. He's slowly creating a golem ecosystem. Mm-hmm.
Just by unknown means, because no idea what's actually powering it.
He knows how to start it, but he doesn't know... And he knows, like, that there's some kind of... something in the clay, or maybe there's something in the area that's causing it, but he doesn't know exactly what it is, because...
He doesn't know who, what, when, why. He only knows how.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because as long as you have, like, at least one or two of those, you're generally good for horror.
Yeah, for sure. So enemy, then?
Well, I was just going to tie the stories together a bit, because you know how there was that picture of the people jumping into the ravine?
Yeah.
It's actually the souls of the damned.
Yeah. And that's where the clay came from.
Oh, their souls are in the clay?
Yeah.
Oh, that's actually fucking good. It's like, I just want... Okay, so, quick aside. Sorry.
But again, if you had that knowledge that the souls of them are in the clay, does that ruin it for you?
No, that actually doesn't, because that actually... It explains it, but it also adds a layer of, like, depth and tragedy to the story, or, like, to the horror of it. Because
but at that
horror
point,
of, like, oh god, these are actually the souls of the dead, or the damned.
Yes, but at that point you would know every single thing about the monster.
But in a way that doesn't ruin it, because you can have it explained too much.
Yeah.
But you can also have it explained in a way that is interesting and also creepy, because it's horrifying, not like there's a way to do it. Like you can ruin the story by explaining it and logistifying everything. That ruins horror a lot of the time. But if you explain it and give it a reason that is horrifying, like, say, again, a bunch of drowned people like died in that ravine, and now their souls are trapped in the clay. That and then by like taking that clay and making these like models, you're actually giving them a new vessel. That is horrifying and therefore creepy, because holy shit, we now have evidence of like a limbo. Like they are in a limbo like state, or like so they're like trapped in these like clay like shells.
Yeah.
It actually kind of again, the side topic I had was, it reminded me of an image I saw on Twitter this morning of a lava flow, like down into like basically an exposed part of a lava tunnel, and the lava flows, like all the dried lava or cooled lava. When I'm looking at it, it kind of looks like a bunch of like people slowly getting sucked into hell.
Oh, nice!
Like the way the lava flow, like the way it formed and cooled, they all look like individual like basically the souls of the damned in like encased in lava, slowly dropping into this orange like abyss in this as the chasm into the lava pit. And then the actual lava is glowing and stuff. Mm-hmm. And it was like a really cool effect. And like I just think of that now, that when you say like their souls are trapped in the clay, it's like that could be another part of the angle to the story, is that there's a weird clay formation, a weird sedimentary formation on the riverbanks of the the river by Ichor Falls, that look like people being swept away by the current in the clay. Like it's just like a weird like erosion type. Like people think it's just a weird erosion phenomena, but it's actually like the souls like screaming through the clay in any way they can. And then somebody like our researcher or whatever takes that clay and makes the golems, and it's like, yes, we have a forms now. Or it's like, we're still suffering. I'm going to make you suffer for you. Like kind of thing like that. And again, it adds them to that horrifying angle of it.
Or they're reanimated and they're like, finally, go back to work. And they just grab a pickaxe and they all climb back up.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's back in the quarry.
Yep. Exactly. Or just like clay guys with newspapers just walking around town.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, they're people too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, it's still be off-putting and creepy.
Yes.
But it's with a little bit of a more mundane angle. Mm-hmm. So, or your benevolence, where they're not malicious, but like it's still creepy to see them moving around.
Their existence is fucked up, but they are not fucked up themselves.
Exactly. Yeah. Their existence is an affront to our sensibilities and our and to nature itself. And that's what's horrifying about the whole situation.
Like the ghouls in Fallout, they look disgusting, but they're just people.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So yes.
Cool.
Onwards too.
I liked and didn't like it. I haven't read too much keyhole fiction.
Yeah,
but like, I feel like it's like a trailer for a movie that never comes out. That's what it feels like to me, because
it's like a mock trailer.
Yeah, pretty much.
Teaser. And again, like a lot of
it's a teaser in the true sense of the word, where I'm being teased with the entire story that I don't get ever.
Yeah,
which kind of annoys me.
But at the same time, I don't know. Like, personally, I like it because there's like I just like make up the story in my head, like what happens like further. But again, I can also see like how the irritation of like, well, what's the beginning? What happened? Like, what happened before this? What happened after this?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just it's because it's it's more of an experimentation of writing than trying to tell a full story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Also, I did read it late, so I'm like, I'm just annoyed. I can start reading these earlier, man.
You probably should.
Yeah.
You say that, but then
I'm not going to.
Yeah, we tried.
Did we?
Yeah, I used to give you reminders. I don't
Oh,
know if
yeah.
that helped.
Yeah, it did, and then they stopped, and then it got worse.
it's really
Weird how that happens. Yeah.
So is that all you gotta say?
Like all the equivalently technobabble going on early on. It's like I understood that they're researchers and scientists, but not much really resonated with me. Some of the concepts they were talking about were interesting, but yeah, it was cool to see the clay golem just kind of show up, just out of nowhere. It's like to be continued, and it never gets continued.
Yeah. So you can either like that or hate it. It's kind of a wishy-washy kind of thing. I can see your point of view of it, because I know I can kind of feel your pain. Because again, like earlier this week, I was like literally, my final thought is, as it is, even with the experimental charm of the writing, it was a little too little. It was a little too little this time around for me. For with these short story, But like now, like I'm reading, now that I've reread it, and I understand, and I've realized, or I've got the more actually a fuller image in my head from reading it a second time for some reason. I actually enjoy it now. So but before, I think it depends on your mentality at the time as well.
It's entirely possible. Yeah. Until I read more keyhole fiction, I won't know if it's just not what I am down with. But
that's fair.
I like the creature enough, though, so I'll give it a pass. Because it's also short, so if it was keyhole fiction, but it was 3 pages long, but it didn't tell much information, then I'd be really annoyed, because it also used a lot of time.
That's the thing about keyhole fiction, it is not that long.
Oh, I know, but...
At least I don't think so. I don't think it's ever that long.
I mean, it's entirely possible, because by what you said, by definition, it's essentially there's no starting or end.
It's just
it's essentially
it's like one or two scenes from something.
Yeah. So it's essentially if you took "I Dare My Best Friend to Ruin My Life" and read one section in the middle, you'd be like, "What's going on?"
Yeah, holy. Okay, that's not keyhole fiction. That's just accidentally falling into the middle of a story.
That's what this is.
No, but
you're falling into the middle of the story.
Unintentionally. This one was keyhole fiction is intentional jumping into the middle of a story.
Whereas
doing that, what you just said, jumping into the middle of "I Dare My Best Friend to Ruin My Life," is unintentionally accessing one of the parts in the middle and not the full story, not getting the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that being said, the same things would be explained or not explained. This being set as keyhole fiction, they didn't explain anything specifically in here, knowing that the only information is in this little section.
Yeah.
Because you don't know the names of everyone, you don't know where they are, you don't know anything.
Yeah.
All you know is it's two smart people talking.
It's really just and again,
science experiment coming in.
Yeah, and I keep saying that it's keyhole fiction, but it seems to be keyhole fiction. I'm not. I don't think that was actually that term was coined a little bit later than when this series came out. But it's definitely more of a writing experiment, I think, than an actual full narrative. Mm-hmm. There is a narrative in there, but it's more about getting this idea out rather than telling a full story.
Yeah, and I like the idea, so I kind of wish there was a fuller kind of situation going on. So
yeah,
I'll give it a pass because of how much I like the creature. Because I really like the claymation style in anything. So my favorite fighting game is Clay Fighter.
Yeah, honestly, when the Clay thing came out, I was like, so it's Clay Fighter?
Yeah.
That's why I referenced Clay Fighter.
Yes.
That's the first thing that came to mind.
Yeah.
So is that your recommendation added on this?
Yeah, you're jumping the gun.
What?
I haven't done my recommendation yet.
And I haven't done mine.
Yeah.
I had no notes. I had to talk about something.
That's fair. All right. Well, is that... You got that? Is all good?
Sure.
I think, no. I'm
just generally speaking, it kind of annoyed me.
Okay. Fair enough.
All right.
Okay. I guess then the final thoughts. So yeah, initially I was actually bugged by it, but then when I reread it, I can't give it a I wouldn't recommend, because I like the idea. I like the idea of like reanimating or like animating something that shouldn't be animated, or like giving life to something that shouldn't be living. And like the idea of like the tiny fingers moving the clay is really cool, and it leaves you to speculate, which I always enjoy about this kind of writing. So I partially recommend it, I guess. I can't give it a full one because I do wish there was a fuller story here, but I will recommend it as a if you like this kind of like just writing experiment, you'll probably enjoy it the way I did, or the way Gamer did. Because you do enjoy. You said you did enjoy the idea that was proposed here.
Yeah,
it's just the way the writing was.
Yeah, spoilers are going to be essentially saying what you're saying. Yeah, because I kind of agree with you there.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll partially recommend this one. It was a cool idea, executed well for what it was trying to do. I just wish it was more. It's really what it boiled down to. So,
well, I recommend it. And I add the stipulation that you should read it twice, because then you double the length.
Read it and then reread it. So, or maybe take a day or so
after,
and then read it again, just to kind of get like the full grasp of what's, because there's a lot said here in a very short amount of time. I think that's why it's actually it's maybe a little bit different from other stories, like these really short stories that we've written that we've read. Where you guys seem to be pissed off a lot more than I am about this stuff, because like it seems like it just cuts off. This one, like it kind of it's just in the middle and doesn't really have an end and doesn't really have a beginning, but it feels kind of complete at the same time, kind of in a way. Like I do still want a fuller story, but like it. Because I feel like, because I understand, or at least I feel that this story is just supposed to be a writing experiment that was it got its goal across, and like so it feels complete to me. Mm-hmm. But I would love to see more of it. But yeah, reread it. Yeah, I like that idea. I'm stunned.
You get double the pasta by reading it twice.
that pasta.
And that's true with everything, though.
I mean, there's some stories I would
reread Dirty Best Friend.
Yeah, exactly.
It's way better the second time.
There are some stories I wouldn't want to reread again.
Ones that would take you an entire month to do so.
Or stories that are just like, I don't want to read because the first time I read it, I was like, no, like Jeff the Killer.
Yeah.
I think if I haven't read that one twice, I think I've like listened to a reading of it once or twice.
I don't know.
I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, I'm pretty much agreeing with the cultist. It's an interesting idea, just not enough of it to satisfy my craving for this sort of thing. And you describing the monster the second time, I didn't realize that it was I guess I glossed over it, that it was like invisible fingers that are like pinching the body parts to make them move and shit. So that made it even more unsettling. It made me wonder.
You just thought that it was like just jankily moving.
Just an animated kind of just like a golem, essentially.
Yeah.
So,
but that little detail adds an extra layer of it, because like, what are those fingers? Where are those fingers from?
Yeah, I want to know. I mean, for all we know, it could just be internal shit. It's just like the way that it's shaped. Yeah. No, it's like pressing from the inside to lift it. Yeah. Maybe. So there could be anything, but yeah.
So there could be something inside of it moving to causing slow commotion.
Yeah, indeed.
Damn.
But I'll softly recommend it. I'll give you a half recommendation because I like the idea. It's just I don't know if I'm a fan of super small keyhole style stories in the middle like this.
We may have to do a few more keyhole fiction episodes.
Yeah. Since you mentioned it, now we're going to have to.
Yeah. Probably in December or maybe in January. Maybe that'll be our New Year's episode. I'll just get a whole bunch of like key fiction, like small key fiction stories.
How dare you? I should have said I loved it then.
I don't need to do it anymore. No,
I love this style story. No, I don't need to listen anymore. No, it's fine. No, it's fine.
All right. So, okay. That was this week's episode. If you like what you heard, if you didn't, leave us a comment in the comment section below where this gets posted, whether it be on Q6, Facebook, YouTube, or Tumblr. We're also on iTunes, so leave us a rating or review, or wherever the streaming site you use to access us. You can also leave us an email at aldenterigamortis@gmail.com. That's ALDNTERIGAMORTIS@gmail.com. Where you can also leave us suggestions for other creepypastas you'd like us to discuss on the show. We are going to be doing most of the Ichor Falls we're doing most of the Ichor Falls stories that we haven't touched on in the past from the Visitor's Guide book of Ichor Falls for the rest of the season, taking a quick break in October for some special episodes. And you can also, look forward to that. We're also on Twitter. Mikey's at the Stands for Evil. I'm at Review Cultist. The Gamer in Yellow is finally on Twitter.
Instead to reactivate my account.
At The Gamer in Yellow without the W because Twitter hates him now.
It hates me too. Everything does. Just why? Why is I think it's 14. Like, why is that the limit?
I don't know. So, yeah, look,
such a weird number
there.
And oddly enough, my favorite number as well. Which is weird.
Yeah, suggest creepypastas that you'd like us to discuss on the show there. I'll add them to the list. That's basically how we've been doing things for the last 4 or 5 years. And, that's how you can get a hold of us and send us stuff. And if you want to check out the title cards for each episode, they're on crazonstudios.tumblr.com, crazon.deviantart.com, and our YouTube channel, Al Dente Rigor Mortis, where you can check out the videos of each episode. And if you'd like to help support the show, you can go to Patreon, look up Al Dente Rigor Mortis, and select the backer tier you'd like to help support us at. We have $2 tier and $5 tiers, but every little bit helps, just to show your support there. We have bonus episodes, extra episodes, early access episodes, so you get them on Tuesdays rather than Thursdays at the $5 tier. And special episodes include
Al Dente Reloaded at the $5 tier, where Mikey and I go back to the good, the bad, and the ugly pastas that the Cultists and the Doctor did back in the day, and read them and see where our thoughts are on them. And then Al Dente Revelations at the $2 tier, where Mikey and I continue those thoughts by listening to your actual old episodes that you did back in the day, and see how our thoughts differ, and possibly have a mind-breaking revelation while doing so.
Awesome. We also have Al Dente Real Talk, where we take a look at movies and film and stuff like that are either based off of creepypastas or like seem to be very similar to creepypasta in theme and mood. So like horror movies and stuff like that. Or ones that have like nightmare fuel that would be good fodder for creepypastas. We also have a few actual plays on the show that we did, or on the Patreon that we did a while back. We might go back. We might go into start doing some more actual plays, depending on if we have time or not. So look forward to that in the future. And just random Patreon specific episodes that we do when something comes up. And for all of our patrons that are helping support the show right now, thank you immensely. You're helping keep those hosting bills at bay. We very much appreciate that. And to all the listeners of our show and even the authors of the stories that we've done on the show, thank you immensely because, well, for the listeners, without you, we wouldn't have a show or keep this like the ball rolling. And without the writers, we wouldn't have the stories that we discuss on the show and generally enjoy. Like, there's a couple ones that like we don't like, but like we discuss anyways because
there's usually heart in everything that we read.
So thank you. So until next time, I have been your host, Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey. The E stands for evil.
And I'm the Gamer in Yellow.
And this has been Al Dente Rigor Mortis. Sleep well.